Alright, so I'm just going to get on here today to discuss the topic of boxing robberies. Um, just let it be known, corruption in boxing isn't anything new. It's been going on for 40, 50 years. We've all heard the tales of fixed fights, but it's just come to my attention that more and more fighters nowadays are getting the decisions in bouts that they clearly did not win. I think somebody needs to call it out because I've been on YouTube and I haven't really found anybody step up to the plate. So I'm just going to chip in my 2 cents on this one. When we think of boxing robberies, I mean, one of the main examples that stands out to me is the first Mayweather-Castillo bout. Now, everybody's going to have a different opinion on that fight. So I'm not, going to call out anybody for having an opinion. But, I dare anybody to get on YouTube and see that bout and tell me who they thought won that fight. I was of the opinion that Castillo won. Don't get me wrong, before he got his rematch, he beat him easily the second time around. But the first time around, I know a lot of people felt that Floyd did not deserve the nod. A lot of people thought that Castillo did more than enough to win that bout. That's one of the main examples that stands out to me. But just in recent time, these past 2-3 years, I've seen this occur more and more. And I'm just going to highlight 5 bouts that would best support my case. The first bout I'm going to mention is Andre Berto versus Luis Collazo. Now, up to that point, Berto was still, in my eyes, unproven. But he was facing Luis Collazo, a slick southpaw, good boxer, who was a viable threat to Berto. We were gonna see what Berto was made of in that bout. Early on in the bout, we saw Collazo catch Berto along the ropes and hurt him. So we finally learned that Berto was vulnerable to being hurt. He was susceptible, and he has trouble against southpaws, as Collazo pointed that out in that bout. It became a back and forth affair. The fight got close, but I still just think that Berto in that fight had done enough to beat I thought Collazo had done enough in that bout to beat Berto and hand him his first loss. I think, to me, that was the bout that exposed Berto, to be honest. It gave another fighter, Victories, the blueprint on how to beat Berto. As we all know now, he has trouble with southpaws, speedy southpaws at that. So, but that was the first fight I can acknowledge where the judges got it wrong. But it doesn't stop there. Second bout I could think of is Matthysse versus Zab Judah. Now, I'll be honest with you. I didn't really see the fight the whole way through. I might have to see it a second time around. But from what I heard and from what I saw for highlights, I thought Matthysse did enough to win that fight. I know that he knocked down Judah late in the fight. I think it was the 11th round. And I got word from many others that Judah had gotten the wrong nod. So these are 2 American fighters that have gotten the decision simply because HBO has money invested in them. We all know, we've all heard the complaints that Andre Berto gets paid far too much for fighting subpar competition. We all know how HBO wanted to build him up. They wanted to make him the next big thing. So I think that was a fine example of how the judges gave him the decision in this fight against Collazo. And Judah likewise, He's got better name recognition than Lucas Matthysse, but Matthysse, it seems to have, the people seem to think that he won that fight. But there are 3 more fights. We got Adrian Broner versus Daniel Ponce de Leon. Now, I saw this fight on the undercard of Haddon versus Alvarez. And here you have Adrian Broner. It's promoted by Golden Boy. And Golden Boy and HBO are trying to build him up. Likewise, in the same way they were trying to build up Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner. He's flashy. He's got fast hands. He's got punching power. But he did not seem to discourage De Leon at any point of the fight. De Leon kept pressing forward. He kept putting pressure on Broner. I mean, I'm not going to say he landed, a substantial amount of punches, but I do know he won enough to beat Broner. I just didn't see Broner do enough in that fight. All I saw him was running around, moving around side to side. He'd throw an occasional jab and all that, but I just didn't think he forced himself onto De Leon. I don't think he did enough to win that fight. He didn't exert his will. He didn't try hard enough. And I think this was just another case. Likewise, Collazo exposing Berto. I just thought that De Leon proved that against Broner, if you apply pressure against him, you're bound to give him a hard time. Now here's another American fighter, undefeated, likewise like Berto, that was trying to get built up by HBO. They got exposed. He lost. So on to the 4th fight. Here we have Lucas Matthysse, who I mentioned previously, against Zab Judah, against Devin Alexander. Now, Devin Alexander was coming off a loss against Tim Bradley. He was fighting in his home state of Missouri, but Lucas Matthysse was able to land his right hand time and time again in this bout. And further deeper into the fight, we began to notice that Alexander was becoming exhausted. It seemed that he didn't pack much power behind his punches. It just felt like he was pushing his punches, but he wasn't throwing anything effectively. Lucas Matthysse was able to fight effectively on the inside. He was able to negate Alexander's speed. The last 10-15 seconds of the round, Alexander might have been able to come back with a flashy flurry or something, but it was becoming more and more obvious with each passing round that Lucas Matthysse was winning the fight. He was also the first fighter to knock down Devin Alexander in a professional bout. I'm not sure if he had ever been knocked down in an amateur bout, but I do know that Lucas Matthysse was the first fighter to knock Devin Alexander out. He was working his game plan to perfection. He was making Alexander fight his fight. He was applying good pressure, constant pressure, every single minute of every round. I don't understand how Devin Alexander got the nod in this fight. I do praise him for being able to get up and continue with the fight, for being able to go the full 12 rounds. But I just don't see how he won that fight. So that's a 4th American fighter, which HBO has money invested in. They got the wrong decision. Now, this is the last bout I'm going to mention, and it just happened just this past weekend with Lara and Paul Williams. Now, Paul Williams, was coming off second round knockout loss to Sergio Martinez, and a lot of people were questioning whether or not he truly had it, if he had really passed his peak at this point. A lot of people thought that Erislandy Lara would be able to present those answers to us, and I think he truly did. He made Paul Williams fight his fight. Erislandy Lara, to me, I thought was able to do whatever he wanted with Paul Williams. Towards the end of the fight, he was landing his left hook at will. He had the higher connect percentage. He was forcing Paul Williams to come forward effectively. He applied good ring generalship in this bout. Paul Williams threw over 1,000 punches, but he didn't throw anything effective. We all saw that Erislandy Lara threw the harder, crisp punches in this bout. He was able to bust Williams up. He left him with a nasty gash over his left eye, and he himself, Lara, came out with a little bit of swelling on his forehead, but nothing serious. At the end of the fight, anybody could have easily been able to tell who won this bout. It wasn't close. Lara won this fight by a clear-cut margin. HBO had it 117, 111. Boxing Scene had it the same. But the three judges that were on hand didn't seem to agree and gave Paul Williams the nod. So this is yet another example of HBO having money invested in an American fighter, and the American fighter getting the decision. Now look, I have nothing against any of these guys, but I just think this is vile. It's disgusting. Fighters spend weeks in preparation for these bouts, and how do we recompensate them with losses? They're gonna send them back to the drawing board. And force them to train even harder, with the possibility of this happening again. As in the case of Lucas Matthysse, he went in there undefeated in his bout against Zab Judah. He lost, which forced him to train a little harder, and just to see it happen again against Devin Alexander, and for the viewers at these arenas, for the viewers that are watching on TV, at the conclusion of these telecasts, we're not leaving the fans satisfied. The fans are not happy. We're beginning to lose those fans. And likewise, we're failing to gain new ones with all this going on. UFC is beginning to close in on the sport of boxing, and it shouldn't be difficult to see why. Robberies in boxing are becoming a common occurrence more and more every day, and it's wrong. I hope the boxing commissions, the sanctioning bodies look into this, because until we correct this, we're going to keep losing fans, and we're going to keep failing to attract new ones. Even Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, fighters like those will not be enough to keep those fans around. So, boxing robberies is a major issue that the sport has just, continuously decided to overlook. But, this is just one of those things that we're going to have to fix before the sport gets any better anytime soon.